Patient. Oh! Ah! Before I get into this, let me say, in the interest of full disclosure,
I'm going to take a wild guess and say that you're just going to ramble for the next 5 or 6 minutes, but don't worry, I'm going to be here to check you every step of the way. Seeing how it is that you're upset that, let's just say that you're being pandered to. Really quick, guys, there's a lot to get into in this video, from whether it be North Carolina politics, why it is that Stephen A. Smith should probably be a little bit more upset about that. I'm obviously going to be giving you guys my concerns, especially with this said push at the very, very end, but also going to be roasting him, of course, like always, because it just seems to me like the people who want to be pandered to the most are now getting upset with the fact that they're being pandered to. It's a very, very weird dichotomy that's going on here, but I got to keep it as clean as possible because I may have mentioned it before. Yeah, a lot of people have been responding to Stephen A. Smith's take, and for whatever reason, their videos have either A, been getting removed or they've been getting blocked. It's very, very strange. I've seen a few people responding to it, so I figured, okay, screw it. I might as well go ahead and give it a chance too, seeing how it is that I don't exactly shy away from talking about Stephen A. Smith 90% of the time. It's normally to make fun of him, troll him, or point out where he's wrong, but there are a few times where he does get it right. This Friday just happens to not be one of those times. Roughly about a week or so ago, Joe Biden did an ad, or the Biden campaign decided that they wanted to release an ad on Twitter. It's on the White House YouTube page. They basically decided to do, well, I'm going to play it for you guys, even though I actually did cover it to a certain degree, or at least I mentioned it in the previous ad, but I chose not to do a full video on said ad, because I think that the subject matter is a little bit more delicate than you might think. I noticed earlier that a couple of YouTube channels that released content, or at least responses to this ad, or responses to at least Stephen A. Smith himself, some of these videos got removed or taken down. Now, really quick, before we get into this, I want you to know right now, if you get a notification about this video and you see the video, but magically it cuts off midway, chances are it's because YouTube did in fact take it down. But I don't think they'll be taking down my version, because I'm not here to enforce any of the stereotypes, but just simply here to comment on what Stephen A. Smith is saying and countering like I normally do. But trust me, by the time we get done with this, you will understand exactly where I'm going with this. Also, one more thing in this video too, I'm going to be expressing to you guys some of the fears that I have. And one more thing too, these two videos right here will be in the description box. I'm also going to be releasing a video this weekend on Gear Issue 33. I'm deciding to move the cell phone attack video to Gear Issue 33. I'll be explaining that more so towards the end, but let's go ahead and watch this ad that the Biden campaign had released that Stephen A. Smith is just now getting.
I went the route of making sure I had a hamburger. So tell me about you guys. What you doing these days?
Why don't you share about your passion of sports?
I'm playing AAU basketball right now.
Are you really? Are you guard?
Yes, sir.
Now, what grade are you in?
7th grade.
7th grade.
Right now I'm just doing basketball, playing guard on the JV team for my school.
How about in school? How y'all doing in school? You should tell the president about the school.
Favorite thing about it is the business academy I'm in. You get to like travel, so we've been to like NC State, Wake Tech, and
You're kidding me.
yeah, we went to this small dry cleaning business, and it's cool. It's a great experience.
I'm impressed. Is that a new program at the school?
Yes, sir, it is. It just started just a couple of years ago.
You know how much this guy loves you. You can just feel it, can't you?
Yes, sir.
Your dad jumped in front of a bull for you. By the way, we dads are hard to raise. Once you're a teenager, we're hard to raise. So you gotta be patient with us, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Go patient.
oh! Ah! Before I get into this, let me say, in the interest of full
Before I start commenting to Stephen A., let me go ahead and say this. It is pretty well known that there is a certain trope, and Stephen A. is going to mention it here in a second, that black people, especially black people in the South, eat fried chicken, collard greens, watermelon, all that stuff here, and all that type of stuff there. And I'm here to tell you right now that fried chicken is really more or less just a thing of the South, and cookout, of course, me being a North Carolinian, I obviously know about cookout very well, because cookout's kind of a delicacy down here. It's a really good fast food restaurant with burgers, fries, milkshakes. But I think the real story should be the price change at Cookout, because that same meal that Joe is eating, it was $7.69 at one point in time. It was a burger with chicken tenders and French fries and a drink. You could get it for $7.69, but now it's like $8.99. So if anything, I think that the real story here is the price of said item going up through the roof. And I think that they cut the chicken tenders out of that meal. I think it's now just a good old-fashioned burger and fries. Still, though, at the same time, I think that right there is the real story. But obviously, we're over here talking about the topic of race and why it is that somebody decided to go out of his way to, let's just say, sit down with a family of color. But there is one thing that I will say, okay? I will say this right before I go any further. This type of pandering out of the Democratic Party is not exactly, how do I say, uncommon. Do you guys remember when Hillary Clinton went on the Breakfast Club and decided that she wanted to pander to Charlemagne the God or Charlemagne the Fraud's audience? Do you guys remember this?
Something that you always carry with you.
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you getting information right now?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce in my bag, Swag?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yes.
Now listen, I
yes.
just want you to know, people are going to see this and say, okay, she's pandering to black people again.
Okay. Is it working?
I have been in the South my entire life, born and raised right here in North Carolina, and to be honest with you, pulling out hot sauce for a meal is something that is actually quite rare, at least from what I've seen here. It's almost like assuming that everybody who's Mexican loves spicy food when that's not always the case. Guys, really quick, I could go through Hillary Clinton's past about her calling people of color super predators. I could go through Joe Biden's past. Okay, I'm briefly going to touch on it in this video. But here's the thing, though. This right here is the only group that I can think of that demands politicians actually pay them attention and actually pander to them. But then again, though, at the same time, though, this same group is also in the process of being placed. So I'm just going to leave it at that there. But don't worry, I'll find some things, find some videos or whatnot, put them in the description box for you guys so that way you guys can see exactly all the things that Biden has said. And I mean, not just the things that he has said, but also some of the legislation that he has helped enact. You know, that piece of legislation like the crime bill, or maybe that bill in 1991 that was focused on black men in particular. You know, the one that focused on crack legislation, you know, that type of stuff there. The truth be told is Joe Biden's past, his past when it comes to black people, it's a pretty horrific past. I mean, it is terrible. But of course, Stephen A. Smith, he supported said individual, and of course he is still supporting said individual. So why are you mad, bro? There's one more thing that I need to say. If Stephen A. wants to be mad about anything, what he should be mad about is the fact that Biden chose to eat a burger.
I went the route of making sure I had a hamburger.
Rather than eating chicken. Like I said, Cookout is not exactly a restaurant or a fast food joint that serves fried chicken. They basically serve chicken tenders is what they serve. But obviously you guys saw in the ad, a lot of people were upset about this because Joe was a little bit surprised that one said child was actually going to school learning business, which, by the way, would obviously make you a little bit upset because let's just go ahead and be honest. School is for everybody. And of course, he mentioned Wake Tech. He mentioned NC State. Obviously, this little ad was taken in Raleigh, or it was filmed in Raleigh. And of course, the governor of our state, Roy Cooper, or I like to call him Roy Pooper, who's on his way out. Somehow or another, he managed to get reelected. I still cannot figure how that happened. But of course, the Democratic Party is in fact aiming to go after the state of North Carolina, even though I can tell you right now, Trump's probably going to win this state by about 5 or 6 points. But with that right there out of the way, let's go ahead and get to Stephen A. Smith's whining and crying.
Let me say, in the interest of full disclosure and fairness, the Biden campaign says it would target North Carolina with heavy advertising in its push to win the battleground state in the 2024 election. Biden narrowly lost North Carolina to then-President Donald Trump in 2020. Biden visited Raleigh last month to speak about broadband internet and economic development. In the video, the president is seen, basically at a restaurant called Cookout, where he and Democratic Governor Roy Cooper ordered fried chicken, burgers, milkshakes, a signature of the restaurant, okay, before they were sitting, wherever the hell they were sitting.
There's a few things that I could unpack just from that 45 seconds alone. But I kind of alluded to this earlier about the state of North Carolina. We typically tend to vote Republican when it comes to elections, at least as far as the presidential election is concerned, but we typically tend to vote Democrat when it comes to the governor's race. It's a very, very weird thing that we have here where even Democrats in the state will actually vote Republican in the presidential election, even though we're obviously seeing a lot of Democrats re-registering as Republicans so that way they can vote Republican in this upcoming election. They did it in 2016, they didn't do it in 2020. Hence, one of the reasons why it is that Roy Pooper managed to stay elected or stay in office. Still can't figure it out. But the thing is this right here. In the state of North Carolina, our politicians, especially our liberal politicians, aren't really that liberal. They're actually a little bit more moderate, at least when it comes to overall policy. For example, there are actual pro-Second Amendment Democrats in this state, but of course, the Democrats in this state are starting to see that the Democratic Party has gotten a little bit too radical. If anything, if Stephen A. Smith wants to be a political voice, maybe what he should do is advise the person that he intends on voting for. I heard Brandon Tatum earlier say that he thinks that Stephen A. wants to vote Republican so bad. I disagree with that 100%. Stephen A. Smith, by the way, is just a good old-fashioned squawk box. He basically just says whatever the hell his white daddy tells him to say. The thing about Stephen A., what he does not understand is that North Carolina, like I mentioned before, the Democrats in the state are not really and truly that liberal. As a matter of fact, I see Biden probably getting a lot less votes than what he got in 2020 and probably a lot less votes than what Hillary Clinton got in 2016, whom I mentioned earlier in her pandering efforts. Pandering just doesn't seem to work that well in this state. And this state, by the way, does have a relatively sizable black population. I mentioned in a lot of my videos when they try to bring up the topic of race, because obviously white people and black people work together like crazy. If anything, Wake County, Raleigh, North Carolina, is a little bit more suburban and a little bit more white liberal-ish, which makes me wonder why it is that he went there, especially given the fact that Wake County is probably a zone for him. Maybe what he might want to do is increase his turnout, say in like Charlotte or something like that. Not exactly what we call very good campaign strategy, but still at the same time, if Stephen A. wanted to actually have an honest-to-God good take here, he'd have gone after Biden for going into a state, which quite frankly is probably going to be much, much redder at the end of this election cycle. We are very, very close to becoming a lot like Florida in that sense there, and thank God, too, because the Democrats have been trying to screw this state up for years, but let's watch some more.
On this show, I've called out Trump and various other Republicans for some of the decisions that they made and some of the things that they've done. Do you think I'm going to let President Biden off the hook? This wasn't Kamala Harris in Raleigh. This was him. This is the same dude who was a senator in the 90s pushing the crime bill. You know that crime bill that led to mass incarceration for an inordinate amount of black folks that Bill Clinton himself and others in the Democratic Party lamented? Well, who was more of a culprit in that regard than Biden? I recognize what he's done for HBCUs. I recognize what he's done for infrastructure. I recognize what he's done for forgiveness of student loans. I recognize these things. I'm not trying to expel or expunge the good that he has done. But this imagery, I want to know who the hell came up with that idea. Because you know Trump and the GOP are going to use that to their advantage, right? And they'll be right to do so.
Well, Stephen A., he didn't eat fried chicken. He ate a burger, remember?
Making sure I had a hamburger.
I mean, if you want to get mad about something, maybe what you should get mad about is the fact that he didn't eat chicken. Okay, and it is kind of weird, especially given the fact that he's 81 years old. But look, dude, look, I eat fried chicken. My personal favorite fried chicken when it's fresh is Bojangles. Church's chicken is really good as well. Also, Kentucky Fried Chicken, the original recipe. I just prefer the original recipe. You know who else makes some good fried chicken? Golden Corral makes some good fried chicken. My grandmother was very good at fried chicken. I've also been in a lot of homes of people who, of course, are people of color, black people, and eating fried chicken, collard greens, corn. You know, down here in North Carolina, we've got this thing where we get that nice corn. You know how you guys, you put up corn. It's just an old Southern thing, where you kind of like just cut the corn right off the cob and you get that little bit of corn milk out there. You put it in the bag, you freeze it, and of course you make it. Sometimes it tastes really, really good after you blanch it and everything. And of course, just a little bit of tiny sugar, a little bit of butter, whatnot, even some bacon grease from time to time. Tastes almost like candy. Living in the South will make you actually fat. Like you'll actually sweat literal grease coming out of you. I understand that Stephen A. is a little bit concerned about that, but I mean, dude, Look, man, I didn't vote for Joe. I ain't going to vote for Joe. I spend 99% of my time complaining about Joe and where he's taking this country at. But still, at the same time, though, he ain't got many years left. So let him enjoy some of that food.
On the kids' plans, which is what you saw. Why do I have a problem with this? First of all, we all know about racial tropes, do we not? Racist tropes. You ever heard of that? Where people sit up there and try to use things to intimate something else of a racially insensitive nature. So black folks with the president and fried chicken ain't the greatest look. That's number one. Number two, President Biden, respectfully, I got to ask you this question. What the hell are you doing eating fried chicken? You're 81. What 81 you know is munching on fried chicken? You ain't been in the greatest health in a lot of people's eyes, you know.
Yeah, they obviously decided to do this. They obviously got some really, really big time cojones on them. I mean, like I said, Stephen A., I don't know why you're mad, because this is what the Democratic Party does. They love to pander, especially to people of color. They love to pander to black people. This is just who they are. Okay, I mean, they can't run on their record, so they got to go out there, they got to promise you all that free stuff. I mean, that's just kind of who these people are. I mean, Stephen A., I really don't know why you're mad. I mean, you always complain that white people don't understand black people, but Joe's at least trying. I mean, I understand the crime bill and all that stuff there. I mean, that right there is a whole can of worms altogether, even though you guys should have known this long before that Biden was behind the crime bill, that he was the main chief driving force there, that it was him who basically helped lock up an entire generation of black men. I mean, look, I have a lot of criticism of Joe Biden, especially when it comes to Joe Biden's relationship with black people. I mean, I could run through a whole montage, which I don't have right now, of every derogatory thing he has said. I could go through all that, but of course, for the purposes of time, I'm not going to do this. I mean, there's a reason why these reaction channels exist to Joe Biden comments, to Joe Biden quotes. There's a reason why they exist, because people know he's a racist. All right, that right there is the real truth about Joe Biden. But still, though, Stephen A., you support him. You're getting what it is that you wanted. You're getting somebody to pander to you. First of all, let me just go ahead and say Jesse Waters talking about this. I haven't really seen that, even though I'm pretty sure he did. Fox News talking about this, I'm pretty sure that they did, but I don't watch Fox that often. Typically, if I go to Fox, it's typically for something that's breaking or something that's breaking right at the end of a very big story. I will use from Fox from time to time. I will also, from time to time, also use, like, say, clips that may come from Hannity or Jesse Waters. They typically do a very good job on this right. Seeing how I just took across and it's gone. But something else, too, that needs to be said. This ad has provided a lot of content for YouTubers, and not just YouTubers on the conservative side of the aisle, but also left-leaning YouTubers as well. The point is this right here. If you should be mad about anything, Stephen A., you should be mad about the fact that Joe Biden decided to eat a burger rather than chicken. Let's watch some more of the parrot.
Chicken ain't the greatest look. Thirdly, y'all knew Fox News and other networks jumped on that, right? And they talked about how he's trying to appeal with the black vote to go get fried chicken. They made the connection, right? Y'all would have a problem with Fox News and Jesse Waters bringing something like that up. I have a problem with the president. There's black kids all over the place. There's a whole bunch of black kids in Raleigh, North Carolina. That is the kind of scene, that is the kind of imagery you and your team decided to provide? I'm not saying it would be, but if it's racist for him, why wouldn't it be racist for Biden? I'm not calling the president the R word. I'm not making that accusation. I'm not accusing anybody on the Democratic or the Republican side for feeling that way over such an incident. What I am saying is, it is what you projected in the eyes of some people. You've given people that ammunition. And if you could give it to them on the right, what absolves you on the left from doing the same thing? I mean, damn, I should have ran for president. Some of the idiotic ass things that you folks do, the level of insensitivity, the lack of understanding. No wonder people are willing to vote for Trump in 2020 or 2016. No wonder they're looking for candidates all over the place. No wonder you lose faith in the political apparatus that exists. Some of the asinine decisions that y'all make with no regard, no understanding, totally oblivious to how it's going to look. You don't think People gonna look up Biden's history as a senator.
Yeah, Stephen A., I'll give it to you. I mean, like I said before, I mean, there is obviously a lack of understanding here. You know, he went to Cookout and he decided Stephen A., let me go ahead and say this really quick. The biggest reason why it is that Donald Trump is doing so well right now in the polls is because a lot of people realize that they screwed up when they voted for Joe Biden. Let's think about this really quick. I'm going to try to break this down as simple as I can because I know Stephen A. Smith probably ain't going to understand this. I know that people love to talk about his debating skills, but the truth be told about Stephen A. Smith is this right here. Outside of his yelling, his tirades, which, by the way, some of them are absolutely hilarious, especially when he goes after Cowboys fans, they're not really that well thought out when you actually think about it. Let me go ahead and kind of break this down for you. The number one reason why it is that people are running back to Donald Trump is because of the economy, okay? The prices of everything right now through the roof, and while it is that the Biden team tells us that the economy is doing good, it really ain't doing that good when you actually break down the numbers, when you actually see that a lot of these jobs that people have are part-time jobs that are being included into the actual totals. When you see that people are also working multiple jobs, that way there's also going to play a role as well. I'll leave the numbers in the description box. Other things that you have to consider is the fact that the Biden administration has gotten us into multiple foreign entanglements, one of which we'll be talking about on Gear Issue 33 tomorrow, which of course is this situation with China, because China looks like they want to go into Taiwan. You've also got Venezuela right now going into Guyana. You've also got the American taxpayer being stuck with billions and billions and billions of dollars being sent to Ukraine, a losing effort to weaken the Russian military, which, by the way, their military is really truly not that strong, but you're also emboldening Putin to use every last person he has to put inside that military, which, by the way, could become a threat, say, 5 to 10 years from now. We'll probably do a video on that at a later date. You're also enriching them, too, when you decide to put sanctions on them, because now you're forcing Putin to go into something that, quite frankly, he does not want to go into. That way, there's the natural minerals of that country. You see, the American taxpayer, and this right also includes black people as well, they are being forced to flip the bill that the Biden administration is making a lot worse. Student loan debt, I'm pretty sure it's going to come up a little bit more, but the student loan debt is not exactly something that applies to black people. It really doesn't. When you actually look at the overall college participation, college graduation, it isn't exactly applying to that, so therefore it's not really helping them out. Also, something else too with student loan debt relief, the only thing you're doing is angering the taxpayer, because now the taxpayer is on the hook for paying for somebody else's student loan debt. You know, somebody who may have partied, smoked weed, gotten drunk, gotten tore up, or possibly opened her legs the entire time she was in college. That right there is the type of things that are making people upset. And while Republicans definitely did not do that well in 2022, a lot of that's because that orange guy wasn't on the ballot. Something else, too, is that when he says, okay, if Trump was here to do it, I would call it out. Well, we already know you would call it out because you're a serial Trump hater. Or maybe you're just an open Trump hater who's secretly a Trump. I really don't know. I can't really figure it out. I just know that you're probably the last person in the world that I would want to take political advice from, which brings me to the point of pandering. There is no group that I can think of more than the topic that we're talking about this moment in time than the people who want to be pandered to. You see, people who want to be pandered to, the reason why it is that they want that is so that way they can feel like they're powerful, even though obviously they are not. As I have mentioned before, and this is almost symbolic in a way, that Biden is pretty much, in my personal opinion, I think it may be possible that he's having his last meal symbolically with the voters, or voters of color in a way, because obviously Democrats, and I've talked about this before, have found a brand new voter group to actually replace you. One of the main reasons why it is that people are also flocking to Donald. The pandering attempts are obviously going to intensify from the Democratic Party. There's probably going to be more videos of this year, and there's probably going to be more criticism of Biden for doing this. Even if they decide to insert Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris or whoever as the nominee, chances are these videos are going to be a little bit more frequent this year. The thing that you have to understand is this right here, though. Those black voters who are going over to the Republican Party, I need to ask you guys a question. Are you coming here because you're pissed off with the Democrats altogether and you're just doing this as a screw you vote, or are you doing this because you are long-term coming over here? The truth be told is this right here. Most black voters are politically, or at least they are socially conservative. They're actually a lot more conservative than you think. They tend to vote Democrat for two reasons. Number one is tradition, and number two, the other reason why they tend to vote Democrat is because the Democratic Party always promises them some additional assistance. People love to call it handouts. I love to call it hand-ups. Now, me, of course, being the conservative, most of you guys already know how I vote. What I'm doing is I'm telling you guys that the Democratic Party has to pander much, much harder to keep this voter base intact, but that voter base is actually shrinking, mostly due to Democrat policies, crime, and now immigration, and of course the abortion rates through the roof. The truth be told is that this attempt by Biden is really kind of a desperate Hail Mary to keep that base intact for one final election cycle, because at this moment in time, the orange guy is getting voters at a record rate. The concern that I have is, as much as I love to say, bring over new voters, I love getting new voters, are you here to stay, or are you only here because you're jilted for one cycle? And I'm going to leave you guys with that there. Please tell me what you think in the comment section. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. I'm going to be leaving these two videos here in the description box from Gear Issue 33. I plan on releasing the cell phone attack video tomorrow on that channel and why that actually occurred. Of course, not only is it going to be released on that channel, I may come back and do a follow-up here and with that one there too, but there's going to be some updates on Gear Issue 33 to go along with that, because I haven't been posting recently. But if you are subscribed there, please, if you haven't, please subscribe there. I'll leave the videos in the description box and the comment section for you guys, so that way you guys can also watch the video, and please support me there too. And also please subscribe to that channel as well. And of course, with that right there being said, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video now. Once again, like button, subscribe, share the video, and I'll see you guys later.